Hello, hello, hello.
Welcome to the Today-ish podcast. My name is James Lee, and I'm here with my co-host.
Hi, everybody. I'm Dani Love. Happy Thursday. We have so much going on today.
Yeah, we should have a great show for you today. We might get a little bit contentious on some of these topics because we're diving into some, I think, very emotionally charged issues such as invading Venezuela. We're talking about ICE. Thank you to the Patreon subscribers for being here. Thank you to people who are new joining. Hit that like button, subscribe, share, do all the things.
Yeah, I don't think it should get contentious.
We'll see. No, I don't think. I mean, we never get really contentious, but we may not be in agreement with one another.
No, we definitely, I think, based on your Twitter feed, are not on the same page at all with some of these topics, specifically Venezuela. But you wanted to start off with the situation in Minnesota. So why don't you give us like an overview of what's going on there and kind of break it down for the viewers?
Well, an overview of what's going on over there, I think. Well, we could just play the video. I'm sure a lot of people have already seen this video of a woman being
Renee Good
being shot by an ICE officer in Minnesota. It's unclear what she exactly was trying to do. Some people say that she was trying to impede ICE activity. Some people say she was just there trying to leave the area. So we'll start with the video, and then we can break down some of the reaction there. So if you go to element C3, that's just raw footage of the shooting. I don't know why our screen keeps popping up over there.
Well, we'll see if that's on there.
No! No! Shame! Shame! Oh my fucking God! What the fuck? What the fuck? You just fucking, what the fuck did you do?
So they're coming up, right?
And they're saying, get out of the car.
And she didn't.
No!
She's driving away.
Shame! Shame! Oh my fucking God! What the fuck? What the
Okay.
So, I mean, I think I have this somewhere in here, but like the Department of Homeland Security, they're not being forthcoming with exactly what happened there because they were saying that she was endangering police officers, that she was doing all kinds of things that she wasn't doing, and also Trump said that the officer who shot her is like recovering in the hospital, but you could clearly see that he's like fine, you know? There's no hospital. So there's like some things that are just not exactly truthful, in my opinion, what's going on here.
Yeah, I mean, look, no matter what, I think that this is just a tragedy, right? I think it's horrible that somebody lost their life.
Yeah.
And it's just super sad. Like, I think it was a situation where the individual, like, I can't get into her head. So I don't know. Like, you're going against what armed officers are telling you to do.
Yeah, but here's my problem. Okay, so my issue with that is, how do we even know this is an officer? Like, there is no badge number. Do you go that guy's badge number? Well, he has no badge number because he's like a lawless police force. Like, you don't know. I could go out there and don some military gear and say I'm ICE police and go, arrest people without any kind of due process or even identifying who I am. So to say that she should listen to this guy is true. If that guy was police and they've identified themselves as police, I would agree. But my problem here is, how do you even know this guy is police?
So what was happening before this incident, for hours before?
Well, they were coming up, and I guess they're doing some kind of operation, right, in the community.
But wasn't it contentious for hours before? Like, it was protesters against the federal ICE agents.
I don't know if there were protests against I haven't seen videos of any protests against these agents. I think they're conducting some kind of operation that's clear, and I think the neighbors in that community, because most of the people who are there, from my understanding, are neighbors. They're not protesters that are coming into the area.
Okay.
To do something against ICE. So those are all just bystanders, neighbors who are there. And my point is that I think it is unlawful for ICE to be doing these activities without at least providing proof of who they are.
And how do you know that they didn't do that?
Because they're not required. They don't do that. There's no badge number. Like, police officers have like their name tag. It has an ID number on it. So you know exactly who's going to be held accountable. Whereas this guy it just has a police patch on it.
Okay. So, that I agree with you. I think that they should have to identify. But as a woman, if my car is being blocked by an officer or even potentially someone who's claiming to be an officer and they're telling me to get out of my car, I'm going to listen.
Okay.
Because it is a known thing, or I'm at least not going to drive into an officer because I'm going to use my brain and think things are escalating, right?
So you would rather get detained. If they're like, we're going to go ahead and detain
well, yeah, because
you
look
right
at what
now.
happened. She died.
She died, but these guys have the ability to detain you, and you don't have any due process. You could get shipped out of state. You could get shipped out of the country without ever getting any kind of review of what's transpired. So that's also something to take note of, is that if you do comply, sure, maybe you're not dead right there, but you could end up in some foreign prison.
Yeah. I think, though, that you just have to be aware of the actions that you're taking. And like I said, I think that what happened to her is tragic. And I can't say that enough. Nobody should have died in that situation. I'm just saying, myself, how I would handle myself in that situation. If law enforcement's telling me to get out of the car, I respect law enforcement. So I'm not going to run my car into law enforcement. I was brought up that, if you're pulled over, you put your hands on 10 and 2, you respect the officer, and the officer should respect you, right? It should be a two-way street. And so that's just the way I was brought up. That's the way that I would handle the situation. And I think that things escalated very quickly, and it's just a tragic thing that happened. I'm not saying by any means that she deserved that. I'm just saying that it was a heightened situation, and you have to be aware of your environment.
Absolutely. I mean, it's hard to say. I mean, let's listen to.
There's people with guns.
There's people with guns
drawn.
Yes.
So it's a contentious environment.
It is. I mean, so then you have to come down to. Well, let's listen to, before we conjecture more, let's listen to maybe a couple of these eyewitnesses just to establish more of what happened. There's eyewitness 1 and 2 that we have. One is let's see here. Let's play this one.
You saw this morning.
Basically, ladies trying to warn everyone ICE is in the neighborhood. Just letting them know, hey, and telling ICE, hey, you're destroying families, whatnot. Stop doing this. Hey, get out of here. Stop that. She reversed so traffic can go by. The pickup truck, gray pickup truck, officer ICE got out and was telling her, hey, didn't tell her anything, really, just telling her I'm going to open up your door and I'm going to get you out. And that's when the shooting happened, and the car took off, and then it sped off and crashed right into the cars.
Can you talk about the agent that was stepped in front of the car?
The way he was in the clear. There was another one at the front part of the car on the driver's side. Then there's one right there by the door that's opening, trying to get in the door. Then you have one that's in front of the car that was already coming from the side. And he was just getting clear because he already see that, hey, this person could take off, but, maybe I'll try to, intimidate you with my gun.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard. So, I'm hearing people, mostly a lot of people are like, you should just comply with the officer, right?
Yeah, I mean, that's what the chat's saying, and the chat's also saying that she was blocking ICE.
Right, and my problem with this whole thing still stems from the fact that we don't know this is ICE. They're saying they're ICE, But how do you know they're ICE? There's no identification. What if I go and pretend to be ICE and I'm going to go kidnap you? Well, you're going to listen because I'm coming guns drawn, and you're saying it's okay that you should just comply with an
I think they're two separate. I think they're two separate.
You don't know who these people are.
Yeah, but I think those are two separate issues, right? Like, I agree with you. They should identify. But in this situation, and I'm making an assumption here, I don't think that she was questioning whether or not that was an authentic ICE
I don't. Well,
officer.
they're coming out of a SUV that's not like a government SUV, right? It's just a civilian.
But here you have the eyewitness referring to them as ICE agents, saying that they knew the ICE agents were there,
Right.
that the community was talking to them, saying, you're here, you're destroying neighborhoods. It's very obvious that the eyewitness understood that these were ICE agents. This is your eyewitness.
Right. No, I'm not saying that they're not ICE agents.
But you're saying that they need to reveal themselves and that there might have been ambiguity that they didn't know that they were an ICE agent.
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying
Okay.
that I'm not saying that there's necessarily ambiguity in the sense that like people don't think they're ICE. What I am saying is that you have to consider the edge cases of, let's say there are people going out there pretending to be ICE agents to go and kidnap people. You have to consider that into the totality of the conversation to say they should not be allowed to conduct these raids without properly identifying themselves first.
Yeah, you're creating a hypothetical situation. And in that scenario, I agree with you because as a woman, like, there are stories that you hear where people pretend to be officers
Right.
or Amazon drivers and they come to your door and they rape and kill a woman, right? So I totally agree that they should be identified, but I'm just trying to focus on the facts of this situation and just say it's a tragic situation. But I think your point is something that absolutely should be addressed for future, for the future. But it's very clear that the witnesses were aware that this was ICE.
Yes. Well, I guess the witness also said that didn't look like the ICE officer was in any kind of danger.
Yeah, and of course, all of social media is split on this.
They're split on it for sure.
There's people saying "fuck around, find out," and
Yeah,
there's
yeah.
people that are saying that this is George Floyd Part 2. So the Red Sea is parted on this. It's one of those super controversial issues for me. I just think it's wrong. Nobody should have died, and it just makes me sad at the whole entire situation.
Right. I think to me, it's definitely tragic. And it's like, it's been politicized in a sense that it's like, we should just all agree like this kind of stuff should not be necessarily happening in the U.S. Right? We should have, if you want to go do this, because I personally.
So what stuff exactly shouldn't be happening in the U.S.?
I don't think you should have raids of like kind of like Gestapo style police who you don't really know if they are actually the police or not, and then you're getting captured.
To what? Remove illegal immigrants?
Exactly, and then without due process, right? Because they're throwing them in these detention centers. There's no lawyers involved. You can get shipped off to another place. And it just seems like there's a lot, like what if you get caught up in one of these situations, right? You need to, and I think that's why like due process exists, just in case like, hey, there's a mistake, because mistakes are made a lot of time. And this has not been happening just this past year. Mistakes have always been made in these types of law enforcement raids of like, oh, what if we're going to scoop everybody up, but what if somebody in there is just like an innocent bystander? They're not, here illegally.
So I was watching an American Apparel documentary. Do you remember American Apparel when we were in college?
The creepy guy that was like raping his employees and shit like that, allegedly.
Yeah, well, it was interesting because there was like a global component to it, a geopolitical component to it.
I didn't know that. Okay, what was?
But anyways, they were like the fastest growing made in America clothing company, and I don't know if you remember, it was all like the same colored clothing. And they had like the metallic shorts. And anyways, I was in a sorority, so I would go to date dashes back in the day. And I would always go to, I wouldn't because I couldn't afford it, but I would like borrow my friends' American Apparel stuff. And it was like very big. And that was during the Obama administration. And Obama like notoriously is known for having more ICE raids and detainees, you know, at his presidency than ever before in history. And so in this documentary, it was focused on, you know, the sex component and other reasons, but it was also talking about how they disrupted his manufacturing in the United States. And it was the biggest made in America clothing manufacturer, but they went in and he was paying all of his employees super well and people were super happy. It was like a really good culture. This is before the sex stuff got crazy, and that it basically like shut them down because Obama went in and like arrested all of the immigrants. And so my like question to you is, there's a lot of anecdotal stories and evidence of Obama and past presidents separating families and doing the same type of thing, right? So this has been going on for over a decade.
And the question is,
right? Like,
I agree with you. Yes, I agree with you. I actually spoke out against it when we first started doing, or when people first started opposing this kind of ICE situation, especially the Democrats. And I'm like, Obama was doing this exact same thing.
Yeah, I think there's some people, though, that think it's new and that ICE is like Trump created ICE.
No, ICE has been around.
Yes, that's all I'm just trying to say. Like
100%,
this activity has been around and this has been happening. It's more publicized in this presidency.
It is. I think that's part of the thing too, is like what the media chooses to highlight.
Yes.
That is also true. But now maybe I wasn't fully aware before. A lot of people weren't fully aware. When you see something, even if it's highlighted by the media, I have to speak up about it and say, well, even if I maybe agree that we should have law and order, right? There should be a border and things like that I think are more like conservative or right-leaning type of talking points.
I think it's funny that having a border is right-leaning.
It is right, but it's true though.
But what is a country if you don't have a border?
Well, I agree with you, but it's considered to be.
But shouldn't a border be right and left?
Well, so some on the I don't know the left is like a bunch of different things, but it could be like some of the more radical positions, like the open border policy. Like, I don't agree with that because that's chaotic.
Yeah, I'm just saying there's no country in the world that has open borders.
Well, technically Europe with the Schengen region, they do have
okay,
open
but
borders.
like when you look at a map, when you look at a country, they're defined by its borders. I don't understand how this has become a right and a left issue. You know, I don't think that makes you right-leaning on that take. Like, it's a country.
Well, that's what people are telling me. That's what people tell me.
I just find that, like, interesting,
right?
You know?
So they say, okay, so I'm with them on this situation, but I'm not with the way that it's currently being done. I'm not supportive of these types of raids where you have unbadged mass officers.
Look, I'm not either. I'm not in support of these types of raids either. I grew up part of my life in Ventura County. It's a huge agriculture town, and I went to school with a lot of kids that were, you know, first generation and worked in the farm fields, and they're the best people and the best families. I'm, you know, definitely 100,000% in support of going after criminals. Like, you know, last year under Biden, you did have Venezuelan gangs running apartment buildings in Colorado, and it wasn't being reported on mainstream media. In Aurora, Colorado, there's a lot of, you know, crime and things like this that were taking place. And so I think, you know, the pendulum always swings, right? And so now we're in this swing. But ICE has been around, obviously, throughout the various presidencies. And what happened yesterday is a tragedy, and I just don't think there's any other way around it. And it's really sad that both sides are firing up their side and their base to create conflict, because that just doesn't end well. Like, I think it was Minnesota's
mayor?
Yeah, that came out and said, we have a message for ICE. Get the fuck out of our, which, like, I get. But you're not coming out and saying, like, a tragedy happened. We want, you know, everybody needs to stay calm. You know, don't get in conflict. You have, you know, Trump raising up one side. You have everybody kind of raising up their base, and you know, that never ends well.
I would say that would be on purpose, right?
100%. It always is.
The division, to refer back to the title, divide and conquer. Right, this is a divide and conquer moment,
right?
When they can get the people who see, because people can look at that video and see two different things, right? One sees a woman who's done nothing wrong and is just trying to leave or whatever, and the other side is saying, oh no, this woman tried to run over a police officer, right? And they're going to use this moment to kind of divide people in a way where now we are not in agreement. Like we have less in common. They want to make people feel like they have less in common, that the other side, normal people, are enemies, and it's part of the strategy. So I try to not, give into that.
100%. It is the globalist agenda to divide and conquer, because when we are divided, we're easier to be manipulated and we have less power. So I'm always against that on every situation. We got a super chat for $99.
Wow. Super chat from
Caitlin Reed. Support the best duo, Dani and James. Keep up the great work.
Let's go. Let's a little dab for that.
Thank you so much, Caitlin.
Yeah, let's go.
That is so nice. Wow.
Shout out to Caitlin Reed.
That is so generous and so nice. And now you are the fan of the show. Anyways.
Yeah, we got to get your name back on right here. I feel like super chat people, I don't know how to do it, but there should be some kind of live
feed. Can't you manually? Oh, I see.
Yeah, it's just like, boom, popping in the back here. Appreciate you. ISIS. Yeah, I mean, like, yeah, I think that's the overall takeaway is, I mean, if I was the mayor of Minnesota, I might probably air out my exact grievances in a way where, like, hey, this is a horrible tragedy. We're trying to come together. Here's what I think is wrong with what happened. But I'm not sure if, like, the political climate is really all about that, at the moment. Like, imagine if a mayor said that.
Well, speaking of mayors that might say that, Spencer Pratt, this was going to be way later on, but let's just touch on it really quickly, is running for mayor of LA. He announced it yesterday. Mm-hmm. And I know you don't endorse people, and that's fine. I'm endorsing Spencer because Spencer Pratt, if you guys don't know who he was a reality TV star that was on the Hills. He married Heidi Montag. They became Spidey. They were kind of the villains of the show. It was a scripted reality TV show, and he had a house in the Palisades, and he kind of had like a little bit of fame on social media, even though it was like way past his time, because he was really big into his healing crystals and the hummingbirds, and the hummingbirds would come to him in the Palisades at his home. And he was basically, for the most part, just like living a very regular life, suburban life in the Palisades with Heidi. They had their 2 kids, and then the Palisades fire happened. And he saw so much crime, and he saw so much fraud and so much devastation in his neighborhood. And he has been relentless for the past year, for the last 12 months, standing up for his neighbors, for the community, and calling out all of the mismanagement of the money, of the fraud that's been going on in LA. And it has been unbelievable to watch. And I was said a while ago, I hope he runs for mayor. Never thought it was actually going to happen. And yesterday, he actually announced that is exactly what he is doing. And I just think that this is so amazing, because a lot of people in politics, right, they're in it for 20 years. This is someone who's passionate about his cause, and he has ground support. And it's like the ground roots movement. And anyways, let's just quickly jump over here to Spencer Pratt and his announcement. I feel like the crowd goes crazy, and I love this kind of stuff. I love it. Watch this.
That's why I am running for mayor. And let me be clear, this just isn't a campaign. This is a mission, and we are going to expose the system. We are going into every dark corner of LA politics and disinfecting this city with our light. And when we are done, LA is going to be camera ready again.
Damn, I love it so much. What did I just do?
You broke it.
There we go. Sorry, guys. Anyways, I don't know where our chat went. That's what I'm trying to find.
Oh,
Anyways, I don't know what you guys think, and I can't see the chat right now, but I just think it's amazing, and I love that he said this is not just a campaign, this is a mission, and I really, really hope that he can beat out whoever else is running. Is Karen Bass running?
Karen Bass is running.
Woo, baby! Let's fry her up like a fish.
No, I'm no fan of Karen Bass, believe me. But I can't endorse.
Yeah, I mean, that's
but
fine.
I can't endorse.
But
even though I like Spencer, I've even chatted with Spencer
yes.
a couple of times about these like fire aid and various like corruption. And I mean, there is an actual, I mean, we've talked about it. There's a literal cover up happening with the Palisades fire and the cause of it. So there's documented evidence there. And we'll just see. I mean, I think California, it's time. And if we're talking about like the Somali fraud, right, of Minnesota, which I believe exists, but there's, are you?
No, it went down the wrong pipe.
Just kidding. I just think there's much more of that in California, and it's not even, there's no. So I'm gonna wait and see if the people are serious about exposing fraud in California, even if it goes after the most powerful people in California. These are very well-connected people. These are not Somalis. These are like Americans who are out here exploiting homeless people, exploiting veterans, all that stuff going on. So I'm curious to see if they're actually going to deliver here in California versus to me, like the Somali story in Minnesota was highlighted so much because of the immigrant angle and look at these bad brown Muslim people kind of thing versus like, all right, well, let's put your money where your mouth is. Let's expose, the billions of dollars of fraud in California, even if it exposes some of the most wealthy and connected philanthropists in the area. Because there's a lot of those. I mean, we went on the Fire Aid, the Annenberg Foundation, all of these people who are very high up in LA politics. Can we also go after these people?
Yeah, and I think the thing that, Spencer has going for him is that he was in the business, he's connected with everybody in Hollywood, and not everybody in Hollywood that has a lot of money and that's super powerful is getting kickbacks. And I think a lot of those people are going to support him. People were pissed with what happened in the Palisades. Democrats were pissed. And so, you had said, like, I think Karen Bass was going to win again. Back, I think, like 7 months ago. It'll be the same thing. No one's going to be able to beat her. I really think that Spencer could. And I think that is like, just like light shining through in a dark moment. And I think it's hope. And of course, once you get in there, things change. It's politics. But to me, I would 100% go behind Spencer in hopes that he would be bringing in all the right connections to try and rebuild for his neighbors, for the community. It's not someone, I don't believe, who's going to go take a, African vacation while your city's about to burn. So I'm like all for this, and I'm going to like have to wear a Heidi Montag shirt to support.
Okay. Well, I will not be doing that. Not because I necessarily disagree with what you're saying, but because this is, once again, for the audience. I've said this multiple times, and I'll say it again. If I ever endorse a candidate, I don't know what party he's running for, but if he's running as a Republican, which he appears to be running as, then I can't endorse. Nor can I endorse a Democrat. And if I ever do, that means I have received a lot of money to do so, and you will have known that I have done so. So go back to this clip, because I don't think I can, if I take a lot of money, I can't say it in that endorsement ad. But yes, so that's basically saying to me, like, the solution has to fall outside of the two-party system. Even on a local level, I don't trust Democrats or Republicans because they're always guided by these national machines that I think are very extremely corrupt, and they won't actually let them do what they're supposed to do, which is why, even though a lot of people like Mamdani and everything like that, I'm like, well, I don't trust Mamdani, right? I don't think he's going to be able to do what he says he's going to be able to do, because he's saying a lot of populist things people enjoyed over there. He obviously got elected. I think Spencer Pratt here could say a lot of very popular things that people are on board with. I don't trust if he's working within the system to be able to deliver that.
Well, unfortunately, you have to work within the system in order to get elected and make change. And I'm the opposite of you. I actually don't ever want to be paid to endorse anybody.
I've never been paid to endorse anybody.
I'm just saying, like, I am the opposite. I want to only endorse people because it's coming from, like, my beliefs and my belief system. I feel like then you're bought and paid for,
Well, I'm not bought and paid for.
No, I'm saying if you're only going to endorse if you get money, I would endorse.
Yeah.
I'm only going to endorse if I don't get money.
Maybe it's because like I think my.
We need to get the chat back too, by the way.
Yeah, I'll work on that in a second here. I'm the technology guy. I'll get that back for you. I'll get that back. But I think for me, it's I think it's because I don't believe as much in the political system within like actual politicking, like vote harder kind of thing to solve issues. I think most of the issues, if we were to solve them, comes from like external pressure, people out there demanding these kinds of things. And applying that pressure externally on elected officials versus somebody saying, I'm going to get elected, I'm going to go into Congress, I'm going to fix things from in there. So that's why I don't play the endorsement game, just because I ultimately don't believe that is the best path.
Yeah. I mean, look, I'm somebody who's born and raised in California. My dad's a Malibu surfer. I grew up going to the beaches in that town. I know people who lost their homes. And for me to see somebody that really cares about this issue and it's personal to them, somebody from outside of the system, look, getting into politics is one of the most dangerous jobs in the world. And so the fact that Spencer Pratt is actually brave enough and courageous enough to really sacrifice the life that he has with Heidi, his privacy and everything else, and his anonymity, I think is really amazing, and it excites me and gives me hope for the future, especially for California and for LA. I hope he can clean it up. I hope he can stop some of the fraud. I hope he can stop some of the mismanagement of money, and I hope he can call out the corruption. I love the way he calls out Hunger Games Gavin Newsom, and it makes me so happy every single time I see an anti-Gavin Newsom post. So it'll be interesting to see. I don't know what party he's running for. I don't know, but I think it'll be very interesting to see. Somebody said LA is not the Palisades. Actually, the Palisades is inside LA County.
No, it's not even. It's inside LA City.
And it's inside LA City. So, it is. And, people are saying rich people are annoying. What a lot of people don't understand that don't live in the area is that there were a lot of elderly people that bought their first home in the Palisades, single family home. They bought it for $30,000 or $50,000, and they were hardworking middle Americans. And the area became super popular. They made a good investment, and that became their trust and their legacy to leave to their family, their nest egg. And so there's this misconception, because there was a lot of people in Hollywood that lived in the Palisades, that everybody that lived in the Palisades is rich, and that's not true. In fact, there's a lot of people that were elderly people, and they don't have money to actually even move out of their home, and it's completely infected by smoke. They're getting lung issues, they're getting skin issues, people are getting sick. And this is happening in both the Eaton fire and the Palisades fire aftermath, and it's totally devastating. And, you see Gavin Newsom not doing anything about it. He's just moving on, focused on his, run for president in 2028. He doesn't give a shit. And so the idea that we could get someone in there that just gives a shit makes me, so excited.
All right, we'll see what happens. Well, I went to his website today. There's nothing on there yet, because I would like to see some policy proposals or his campaign platform to see what he believes in, what policies he's going to fight for. That would be interesting to see. And I think if I were Mayor Karen Bass's campaign, I would be very concerned.
Oh, my God.
That's what I would say. From just a purely strategic political perspective, I would be concerned.
Yeah. In the chat, we have people saying that Gavin was selling Cali to China. Gavin sold out. What else do we have?
We have rich people are annoying.
Well, that's why I said that. That's why I said that.
Untrue, right? I think there is a bit of he is a reality TV star. I think people are right to have those kinds of reservations.
I wouldn't say Spencer Pratt is a rich person. He just lost his whole entire wealth in that fire.
I mean, I don't know about that. I don't know if I don't know Spencer Pratt's investments. I think he has a lot of things going on other than that property.
Yeah, but I mean, you know, I don't know. If you're somebody who, I mean, his dad was a dentist. It's not like he's some Nepo baby situation, right? Like Mamdani, for example. So
Well, Mamdani is, I mean, what is his dad? His dad is another civilian.
No, his dad's a Colombian professor, and his
How is
mom.
Columbia professor?
Well,
like,
it's his mom.
Any higher or
it's
lower?
his mom that is worth like $30 million,
What is his
and
mom?
she was a director in the film industry. And so, you know, he grew up in a penthouse with a silver spoon, and they have a huge real estate portfolio in India, and they have a penthouse in New York. Mamdani, you know, wasn't brought up by, you know, middle-class America. That's why he first started doing music videos. I'm just saying Spencer Pratt's dad is a dentist. It's a little different.
Then, well, not that different. I mean, Columbia professor plus film.
Yes, plus film. I'm saying a dentist is going to make maybe $1 million, $2 million a year.
Columbia professor makes way less than that.
You keep going to the Colombian professor and ignoring the person that's in, you know, like film production. That's the one that's bringing in all the money.
Look, I don't know. I mean, I'm gonna judge a person by their actions, so we'll see what.
I was just commenting on the rich part.
Oh,
You
yeah.
know.
I mean, I think it's right for people to be, I guess, what's the right word? Like cautious. Apprehensive. Is that the right word? Cautious. To be, you know, kind of just taking a step and say maybe this isn't the guy, you know. I don't know.
Oh my God, is she serious? Yes, I like this comment. DMJ90265. I think people are over the elite politicians. So if a reality star has the passion to expose corruption, then let's go.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
I guess we know who your teenage crush was, Dani. That's so funny. Not my type. I'm not into blondes, so no.
but you could be into a blonde. No, I'm kidding. I don't. I'm just kidding.
I'm not, but okay. Anyways,
all right. So Spencer Pratt running for mayor. I think there's much more to that story as it develops because he literally just announced yesterday we don't have any policies.
yeah, I would go off of this comment, which I think is so on. Mar3R10 said he can't be worse than Bass. So there you go. I agree with that 100%.
He probably can't be worse than Bass. Correct.
Yes. So
Look, if he's running on this issue and he doesn't deliver, he's going to have a lot of back. He's going to lose all of his credibility if he runs on this and doesn't clean up the fraud. Similar to like Trump, and we'll get into more of his stuff here in a second. If he runs on the Epstein files but says it's a hoax, it's a big problem. Mm-hmm. And he's still trying to overcome that problem various different ways, but he's trying to overcome that problem. And it has hurt his credibility, I think, within the MAGA base, definitely amongst independents. And we'll see the results of this election year to see how much damage that caused.
Yeah, I absolutely am in support of all of the victims and all of the survivors. I want the Epstein list to come out as much as anybody else, and I 100% agree with you on that. This rhetoric that keeps being pushed that the base is split over and over, I think is less true now in the last week since Maduro's capture and some other announcements that President Trump has made.
Well, let's get into so let's get into Venezuela here. Because
Yeah.
you're like the Venezuela Monroe Doctrine expert now. The resident expert
So now that it's been almost a week, right? We filmed on Saturday. The capture happened in the middle of the night last Friday. We did a show on Saturday, and we were just like,
hold on one second. This comment is hilarious.
Yeah.
Hold on. Can I interject really quick?
Please.
James, you're never going to win an argument with Dani, so just let it go.
I mean, I would say that you guys usually think he does win in the comments, so there you go. I don't even know what were we arguing about?
Well, I'm talking about. I'm more apprehensive about Spencer Pratt. You're like, let's fucking go. I love Spencer, And I'm just saying, let's take a chill pill here for a second. We don't even know his policies. Like, yes, he has done some great reporting on the LA fire situation, but it doesn't necessarily translate to being a good a person who governs well a city.
Yeah, and I think that just kind of explains our two personalities, right? Like, I am very passionate, and I see something that I like, and I'm like, let's fucking go. And you definitely are much more laid back, and like, you want to take a beat before, you like come out like you said, and give a strong opinion on it. I'm full of strong opinions, and sometimes those strong opinions change. I'm not afraid of that either. If he comes out exactly, Taurus, stay strong, baby.
Are you a Taurus?
Yeah. Oh. How do you not know that? I know you're a Pisces. If I, my Taurus people, if I'm a bull and I'm a dragon, so it's a deadly combination. But
it really is.
If he came out and said something that like I was like, okay, then I'd say that too. But as things stand right now, let's bury Bass and like get some justice for the people in the Palisades. So
also other communities like
the Eaton fires, the Palisades, that's really getting like swept under the rug.
And the LA homeless veterans. I'm doing a big story actually that's coming out tomorrow, just a little preview. I'm doing a big expose on the homeless veterans crisis where they stole 1,000 acres of land from veterans. And now it's a part of like UCLA, like the baseball field is there. There's the Brentwood School has an athletic facility there. Because this deed, just to give people a preview, like this land was deeded for specifically housing veterans. They said this land must be used to house disabled veterans. And this was in 1888. And over the years, they've leased out all this land to various private entities like UCLA and other places like that. And there's even an oil drilling operation on this land now as well.
Oh my gosh.
And there's a bunch of corruption that's happening within LA City to make this happen. So just a little preview for that piece that is coming out. Just a little personal plug of that expose.
Yeah, no, I mean, I can't wait to watch it. And Spencer Pratt has like reposted some of your stuff and has been very complimentary of your work. And so maybe he'll be using some of that information to guide his campaign and where he wants to focus.
I hope
if he
so.
becomes mayor.
I hope so, because we can actually solve the veterans homeless crisis in LA if they just return this land to the veterans. Okay? Except now, because what they're saying now is that, like the baseball field, right? They're saying essentially, oh, well, veterans are allowed to attend UCLA baseball games for free. So, like, it's benefiting the veterans in that sense.
I mean, they always have a narrative, right?
Yeah.
So anyways, it has been
Venezuela. Sorry. I did a whole detour there. Venezuela.
So it's almost been a week. And like in the beginning, we were, we didn't know what was going to happen. We're like, oh my gosh, typically this signals regime change. We both agreed on that. And now I've changed my stance on this. I obviously it's only a week, so time will tell. But this seems very, very different. I'm just curious before we kind of jump into it, where you stand.
On which part?
On Venezuela, if you think this is a regime change, are you in support of it?
No, I am not in support of going in and removing a leader from a country through military means. No. Just as a principled point. I wouldn't want a country coming in and kidnapping Donald Trump, even though I don't, he's not my guy necessarily. I wouldn't want that to happen. Let's say the Chinese came over because they can, if they wanted to, let's say they came in, went into the White House, guns a-blazing, took Trump out, and now he's going to try in a Chinese court. I don't know if they could. Well, let's just say they can. But let's say they can. Because what you're saying is we can do this because we can. So let's say they can. I wouldn't necessarily be in support of that and say, well, they can, so they did it. Right? That wouldn't be my response to the issue. Because a lot of the response to this issue right now is we can do this because we're powerful and we have the military power to do it, so we're going to go and do it. I don't think that's moralistically where the response should be. You could say that that's true. We do have this power. Doesn't mean we should use the power in this way, because imagine a day when we don't have it and somebody else is doing it to you.
Yeah, I actually think that's a perfect part to play this clip.
Kaizen. Our
Yes.
friend Kaizen Aseidu.
Yes. All right, listen to this.
The U.S. is involved in some sort of conflict with a foreign nation or foreign power. Feels like half of it reflexively looks at us as the bad guys. And I get the sentiment as someone who didn't really start following politics until relatively recently. But when I started paying attention to things, I realized, there's a bigger global power game always being played, especially between the great powers, those being U.S., China, and Russia. And Russia and China are playing to win. And it feels like half of the country either doesn't recognize that we need to play to win or doesn't think that there's a game being played at all. Whereas with China, there's documented instances of espionage, them infiltrating our military, them infiltrating our government. In fact, the current New York governor, Kathy Hochul, had someone who was a Chinese spy literally in her administration, and she got convicted of that in 2024. You can look this up. China also gives us TikTok algorithms that feed our kids brain rot while feeding their kids science, technology, engineering, math, and excellence. So there's this social game that the Chinese are playing. There's the espionage and intelligence and military game that they're playing. And there's also a geopolitical game that they're playing. My parents are from Ghana, so periodically I visit Ghana and just to connect with my roots, right? I remember last time I went there, I had a conversation with my great uncle who passed away, and he was talking about how China was basically taking over Ghana. And this is happening in so many places across Africa. There's something called the Belt and Roads Initiative, where China's essentially asserting more and more power over the global south, like South America and Africa. And meanwhile, while we're over here hating our own country, thinking there's not a game being played, and seemingly we're looking for every reasons to paint ourselves as the bad guys and everyone else as the good guys, we're losing. We're just losing. And sometimes it's not so obvious that the game is even being played because our media constantly focuses on Trump rather than who Trump is actually trying to compete with. Like, you guys remember that whole thing about revoking Chinese student visas? I remember having the same reaction that most people have. It's like, whoa, is this like racism? And is this like, what, I don't know what it'll be, Asian hate? And then I looked into it and I found out that there are thousands of Chinese students who are here and are Chinese nationals. And China actually passed a law that actually requires Chinese citizens to work with the Chinese government and provide them with intel from what they're studying at American universities. There's a game being played whether we like it or not. I just wish that even if people disagree with what Trump is doing, we could recognize that America got to where it is by winning, by being powerful. The powerful are the ones who get to assert the moral code. And we need to remain powerful. Otherwise, we don't get to set the moral code. It will be set for us.
That's an interesting. I do enjoy his perspective. He usually thinks things out pretty decently. Although I would rebut some of the claims that he's making because Trump literally said we're doing Chinese student visas because they pay a lot of money to our university, so we're going to keep accepting Chinese students.
Okay, well, that was like not the point of his video.
Well, the point was, I'm just saying there's some of the details in there that he's backing up the points with it's inaccurate, is what I'm saying. And so, okay, so the takeaway there is that Chinese government, Russian government, other things, they're playing a certain geopolitical game, and we should also play that game. Like we shouldn't just be the nice guys and lay back and let things happen to us.
Well, because then the dollar is going to be worthless and the United States will lose its power and you're going to watch our country crumble.
Well, the dollar is worthless, I would argue, because of the policies of the Federal Reserve that they've taken over the last 50 to 60 years, getting it off the gold standard, printing a ton of money.
And it's the petrodollar now, right?
Well, it's always been the petrodollar sort of replaced that. They're saying that because people trade oil in dollars, there's always going to be demand for this currency, and this is how the currency will stay strong.
Well, and that's why this move is so important, right? Because the dollar has been losing its power, and you have the BRICS alliance, Brazil, Russia, India, right? All of these countries that have been, aligning in order to be the currency that oil is traded in. And they've been making these moves. You just heard him talk about that, right? And so the United States, when you look at, I think this is it, when you look at how much oil, this might oh, nope, this isn't it. When you look at how much oil the Venezuela has, it is more than Saudi Arabia. It is more than anywhere else. And so a lot of people are focused on this oil, but I think it's a bigger play. I think it's to make sure that the United States is able to keep the petrodollar, and it's about blocking China from having black market oil, right? Because about 15 years ago, Venezuela has been in debt, and Venezuela asked China for a loan. And China said, okay, well, we'll give you a loan and you can pay us back in oil. And that loan is about half paid. It was $60 billion, and they included the interest in the oil. And so China was getting about 400,000 barrels per day of oil from Venezuela. It was getting another 1.2 million barrels a day from Iran. And it's getting cheap oil from Russia, right? They're getting cheap oil from all of the countries that have sanctions on them. And so China has something called a strategic petroleum reserve, right? It's basically like a backup gas tank in case they can't get oil. Because remember, China imports 75% of its oil. Now, when it comes to rare earth minerals, China, is number one in the world. They have so many rare earth minerals and they control that. But when it comes to oil, they import majority of their oil. So they have the strategic petroleum reserve in case something happens in the Gulf, right? That they'll be able to run for about 90 days. And what it appears that part of this, strategic plan that is happening with the U.S. taking Venezuela, or taking control, you could say, or changing things up in there, even though the regime does still stay in place, and I want to talk about the regime later, is that they're trying to squeeze China from getting this cheap black market oil. And so by taking control of Venezuelan oil, and then you see what's happening right now in Iran, it's completely unstable. The country is on night 13, I think, of national protest against the Islamic regime. And so if the United States is behind, disrupting China's oil from Venezuela and Iran, that takes their strategic petroleum reserve down to 45 days. And that's really important when we talk about Greenland coming up, and also Taiwan and everything else going on with China. Because if they're not able to get their cheap oil, then it restricts like a situation where they could have like a long-term war with the United States, right? Doesn't mean that the United States won't end up selling China oil. It just means like we're in charge. And the United States also is in really good alliances with Saudi Arabia. So with the United States oil, Venezuelan oil, and Saudi oil, puts the United States in a power position, right? And it made sure that the rest of the world is going to continue to transact in dollars, keeping the petrodollar stronger. And anyways, I think that's a very important part.
Well, could you have done this without exerting military power, right? Because all those examples that Kaizen gave in terms of the Chinese influencing other countries, they're doing it through soft power policies, right? They're investing.
Russia invaded Ukraine. I wouldn't call that soft power.
Well, he didn't talk too much about Russia. He talked about China.
Well, he said we're in a power war with Russia and China.
Russia's, I think, too weak, but I think China is pretty strong, right? Because I think the point that I'm making is China is doing what I think. I guess what I'm asking. Ultimately, the question is, China seems to be using soft power to gain influence, whereas it seems like we're unable to exert the soft power that we needed in Venezuela to get them to do what we want them to do, right? To secure our oil reserves and to not sell any oil to China. So we had to take a military action. And I think it's unsustainable over time to continue to take military action versus strengthening our ability to use diplomacy to get things done the way we want them to be done and in favor of, U.S.-centric policies.
Yeah, I mean, of course, that is always a conversation on the table. I think that the United States has been weakening over the last couple of decades, right? And the world powers are noticing this.
Right.
And that's what Kaizen's talking about. Whether you like it or not, a game is being played, right? And the United States is either going to fall or the United States is going to say, no, we're still powerful. And that's why no matter what way you look at it, this is a power move. It was a signal to the rest of the world that at any moment in time, our intelligence and our, forces can go in the middle of the night. And by the way, China has bases in Venezuela. Russia has bases in Venezuela. So the special ops were able to do this, bypassing their intelligence and their army and their bases, and were able to kidnap a president. And President Trump could have killed him. President Trump could have killed Maduro and said,
I think there was
a
deal made. I don't know, I have all the facts or whatever, but my conjecture is that they were able to go in and distract him because a deal was made. I mean, you see Maduro's photos. He's not exactly looking too pissed off right now.
So
I think there was some, I mean, the current government is even still in play. So I think there was a bit of some kind of maneuvering like, hey, Maduro, we got to get you out of there. You're going to get some kind of sham trial, right? They're already dropping some of the charges against him because it was made up. And so he's going to get very light sentencing, and he's going to be, exiled away somewhere to enjoy the rest of his life. So I think there's a bit of fakery there.
Well, but there was 25 of his guards that were murdered.
Yeah, it's unfortunate why they have to murder those guys, because they're just collateral. It's like, we got to kill some people in here. We can't make it look too obvious that this is a setup. So we got to go and kill a few of these guards, which is unfortunate.
I have no idea, what's happening behind closed doors. But what I do know is that this is very, very different, and it's really from any other regime change that has happened, where the United States has gone into the Middle East, right? They've put troops on the ground. They've spent trillions of dollars. There was a lot of... like Iraq, for example, you brought this up, right? They promoted it for 6 months before they did it. Very costly to the United States. They went in. The regime is still standing, right? The vice president.
The vice president. Okay, so I think so the problem here is you don't know for sure what's going to happen, right? You don't know how the Venezuelan people are going to react. You're thinking that you can kind of control the behavior of a population of a country. But let's say they get really upset and they decide, we're going to fucking assassinate this chick that's in power right now. And now it's full chaos that you've unleashed.
Well, so that's another huge difference between the countries in the Middle East that we invaded and Venezuela, is that there was huge opposition leaders with their own armies in those countries. And in Venezuela, they don't have that. In fact, their army is almost set up in a way to prevent any sort of opposition leader. They have over 2,000 generals in the Venezuelan army, which, by the way, that's more generals than NATO has combined. So they do it in a way where it would be very difficult. You have to get at least 1,000 NATO general or 1,000 Venezuelan generals on board. But there's so many different things we're talking about here. And before we go into how are the Venezuelan people, taking this, are they happy? Are they not? I want to talk about, is this a regime change? I think that that's really important. And I have a clip here. It is two of Trump's adversaries on this clip. John Bolton and the head of MI6, that's the UK intelligence, talking about how this is not a regime change. Watch this.
That bypasses the empire's rules-based order.
Well, first of all, I think I'd be cautious about using the phrase regime change. The Americans have abducted the leader of Venezuela, Maduro, and taken him to the US to stand trial. But they are now already dealing with the regime. The army remains in power, the legal structures of the regime remain unchanged, and they're already talking to Delcy Rodriguez, the vice president who's been sworn in as the new president of Venezuela, and distance themselves from the opposition. So this isn't the sort of regime change of the sort that we saw in Iraq, and is commensurate with the clear reluctance by Trump to put large-scale forces on the ground.
Sir John admitted this operation is new territory. He noted that Washington is already dealing with Maduro's successors and that the structures of the country remain. He knows this isn't Iraq, it isn't Tony Blair's regime change. It's something else. And he's not alone. Here's John Bolton.
But let's be clear, there's a big difference between getting Maduro and removing the regime. Right now, Facts are scarce, that's for sure, but the regime is still in power. And Trump, inexplicably today at his news conference, took a shot at the Nobel Peace Prize winning leader of Venezuela's opposition, Mrs. Machado, said she didn't have the trust of the Venezuelan people. So I think there's a lot of lack of clarity, to say the least, in Trump's thinking on this. And it would be a hollow victory indeed if we snatched Maduro but left his regime in place.
When MI6 and John Bolton
should have done a regime change there?
Of course.
Well, because John Bolton's like the crazy
the
neocon.
biggest neocon
Although
in the world.
Okay, the story behind that is based on White House officials. You could believe it or not. The reporting is that Trump was upset that
You can click it to you.
Trump was upset that the lady, Maria Machado, didn't share the Nobel Peace Prize with him. So he was spiteful about that. And then she went on Fox News and said, I should have shared with him and this and that. So, like, I don't know if Trump's acting in a principled way. Although, okay, so you think that because we are able to do this, let's say it's not a regime change. Let's say to take out Maduro in that way, we should? Like, what's the moral grounding for this?
Well, that's a great point. I think one of the things that you could say is, where is my clip? Here, this is it. Is this yours or mine? Yeah, let's listen to this lady from Venezuela, because I've also had my own contacts now in Venezuela, and I think this is like really compelling. Because you said a moral reason.
Mm-hmm. Don't you dare telling me that this is not a reason for celebration. When I first come into the United States, I cried and had to turn around to my husband and ask him to please help me to open the shower, because I didn't even know how to open the shower.
This lady's in America.
Why are you laughing?
When I walked into Walmart and I saw so many options to eat, I couldn't believe myself.
Well, I can find Venezuelans.
Are you going to watch the clip or are you going to talk through it?
Yeah.
I'm just
saying,
annoying.
I can find a Venezuelan in Venezuela who is like unhappy about this. I'm saying you can find.
Let's play the clip. Thank you.
Don't you dare telling me that this is not a reason for celebration. When I first come into the United States, I cried and had to turn around to my husband and ask him to please help me to open the shower, because I didn't even know how to open the shower. When I walked into Walmart and I saw so many options to eat, I couldn't believe myself. Our reality is different. We want to live. And you guys have everything in this country, more than you could ever imagine. And I just wish that you could love it a little bit more and respect it a little bit more. Because if I had to give my life for America, I would. Because my family, I can have dreams and hopes and plans of a future, dreaming of a home, of a car, and all these silly things. Because of the United States. We see it as salvation, honestly. That's the way we see it. We see it as the opportunity to hug our family again. You know, because, I'm sorry. We fought way too hard. And we were either killed, run over by their tanks, taken to prison and disappeared. People that I studied with, they just disappeared. They just took them away. They vanished them. If 100% of the Americans that are against what happened in Venezuela are not coming from experience, okay? Whatever situation you have ever lived in the United States will never ever compare to the famine, persecution, and destruction that we have endured to 26 years. You are upset that a military operation took place because of oil, supposedly. That's what is being said. But nobody said anything while people starving, eating out of the trash. Like, I had friends that took whatever somebody threw on the trash and tried to eat the leftovers. I had.
Okay, we can stop it there.
I'm sorry. That's fake gay propaganda. It's, first of all, she's speaking in English. This is a propaganda piece for Americans. And I can find any opinion that I want and record it for propaganda purposes. I can go, and there's clips of Venezuelans out there who are unhappy about this. I can find people on both sides. I can find, if Trump got assassinated, I can go find a clip of somebody saying, wow, this is salvation for us. It doesn't mean that it is the right thing to do. I don't think that's how we should be basing our decisions.
I'm not, but I said last Saturday, like, I don't know how Venezuelans feel about this. And so I tried to find people that knew people in Venezuela. And one of the people that my brother works with has family in Venezuela. And I talked to him on the phone, and he said they're celebrating. They used to be a democracy. The grandparents remember what it was like 26 years ago before Maduro was there. And there really are like famine issues and hunger issues. And I do think that a lot of Americans just can't even imagine that, because there is so much more opportunity in the United States. I am very weary of propaganda, but I do think that side of the story, there's truth to both sides, right? There's people that are against it.
But that doesn't mean that we should use that to base our decisions off of. I can find everybody. You could find people celebrating Charlie Kirk's death. I mean, it doesn't mean that that I support it, right? It doesn't mean that we should use that as a grounding to base our foreign policy off of. And just to give history about Venezuela, Hugo Chavez, the democratically elected leader back in, it was 98 or whatever, he raised the living standard of Venezuela over the course of his rule, or he was democratically elected.
Exactly,
so
it was a democracy.
It was a democracy, so he raised the living standards, but he also nationalized the natural resources. So he used the Venezuelan oil to set up social programs in Venezuela to raise the literacy rate, healthcare, and all these things like that. So the people of Venezuela started to improve. Their standards started to improve.
Exactly.
And then Obama, because they didn't like the things that were going on with the nationalization, they placed sanctions on Venezuela because they deemed it to be a state that was an enemy of the United States. And so we started sanctioning them. So then they started struggling in terms of their just the foreign money coming in. And so, yes, things did happen, but we were the ones that caused it. They were on the upward trajectory. We just didn't like the way they were doing it. And so we went in, messed up their country. And Maduro came in, democratically elected. It wasn't until the last election that you could argue for sure that it was an undemocratic election.
But the last two were like really in question, right?
The last two were really in question. The last one, for sure, I've seen evidence of voter manipulation. The last one before that, we're not sure. The UN wasn't even allowed to go in because the opposition party rejected an independent party to go in because they say this would just legitimize the election. So they actually stopped independent regulators from coming in to audit their elections. So I would say a lot of that stuff that she's talking about, I'm not discounting that she suffered in Venezuela, but I'm saying a lot of that is the U.S. is a result of U.S. actions to sanction Venezuela over the last decade and a half, causing them to have economic issues and then turn around and say, well, we got to now remove this leader because we've caused that problem. Without acknowledging that we caused the problem.
I would just say that part of what she's saying is supported by the fact that while Maduro's been in power, 8 million Venezuelans have fled the country.
True. But then the U.S. has imposed sanctions on Venezuela during this time period to basically, suffocate the country.
But if your country has the most natural oil in the world, more than Saudi Arabia, look at Saudi Arabia's people. Why is it always the United States' fault?
Because they nationalized their oil. Hugo Chavez did, and the U.S. didn't like that and said, "Well, Venezuela is now an enemy of the United States."
I thought you said things were much better under Hugo Chavez.
They were. So, but he used the oil profits to basically implement socialist programs in Venezuela. But the U.S. didn't like that, so they through an act of Congress, declared that Venezuela is an enemy of the United States and we need to start imposing sanctions.
My question is, because I actually don't know, isn't there some blame on Maduro for the way that he led his people and not producing the oil the way that the Middle East countries do, and like how Saudi Arabia did
but I'm not
to make
saying
sure
Maduro's
that
a good guy. That's not what I'm saying.
Like, to enrich his own people. Like, couldn't they have done that?
Couldn't they have done, like...
Use their resources and produce the oil and done, like...
But we're, like, sanctioning their government, you know, with sanctioning the entire country in terms of, like, the money that can flow in and out, the people that can they trade with. So it's like they can't trade with any of the Western parties. So
they've been trading with China.
Well, because
and
China
Russia
says it's
and
cool
Iran.
because all the Western countries are following the U.S. sanctions. So they're not allowed to trade with these Western countries. So it forces them to trade with Russia and China. And now we're saying, well, because they're trading with Russia and China, we got to go in and take them out. But we forced them into that position. They would happily have sold the oil to whoever wanted to buy the oil, I'm sure. But because they wanted to control their natural resources and use that money to better their own citizens' lives, we didn't allow that to happen. And in the case of oil here, we're giving it not to taxpayers, not to Americans. We're giving it to ExxonMobil. We're giving it to Chevron. We're giving it to Citgo. All these are private entities that have no allegiance to the United States, the people of the United States. So nobody other than the investors are going to get rich off of this, is what I'm saying. So, like, a lot of the context has been lost in that we caused the problem in Venezuela in the first place. It could be argued. And now we're using it as a pretense to now go in and say, well, we have to take out the leader that we sort of put in that position.
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
And I would say, like, I don't know. So, like, just because we can do it doesn't mean we should do it, right? Let's say it's all, like, because then you could take this kind of, like, Monroe Doctrine type of thing. I know you haven't shown us the video, but, like, the idea that this is our area and because we have the power to go and defend it and take over, it means you should, right? Because there was that viral video that I saw of, like, somebody's, I'm going to take over my neighbor's house because I can. Let's say I get a bunch of guns and I'm going to just take over my neighbor's house because I like the house, and I'm going to pay off the police, the chief of police. They're going to be on my side, and now I'm fully prepared to defend this territory.
I think it goes
I'm not
back
going to make I'm not going to make a moral argument that that's the right thing to do. You know?
Right. Well, and that's obviously like a comedic, take on everything that's going on. But it goes back to Kazan's point that there's a game being played, and people want to ignore that. That the United States is one of the powers of the world, so is Russia and China, and they're either going to assert that power and remain a power, or they're going to fall. And so there's that at play.
Yeah, I would say that I don't disagree that there's a game being played. I guess,
and it's been played throughout history with every single, like, the Egyptians were a power, the Roman Empire were a power. Like, this isn't anything new.
No, I'm not saying it's new. I just think that maybe the disagreement here is that I think this is a losing play. I think there's only so much you can do here, because now we're going to go take over Greenland. They don't want to do it. Let's say Denmark says, no, I don't want you to take over Greenland, right? Because they're like, oh, we're going to buy it. And if Denmark says, no, we're not selling, then Trump's just going to say, well, we're going to take over militarily because we can. And now you're going to go essentially attack a NATO country, and then you could say, well, the U.S. is NATO, so who cares about NATO? So then you're going down a path of, like, isolating everybody in the world, and the only result that I can see is a losing effort, right? This is talking about, like, the Roman Empire, the fall of the Roman Empire, but, like, sped up.
Yeah, but the Roman Empire was a Roman Republic first for a few hundred years. And then, it turned into the Roman Empire when the people started losing faith in the Senate. And so you could make an argument that what you're seeing here is the United States, right? People don't trust Congress right now, that it's shifting and becoming the United States empire. And so, the Roman Empire lasted, 1,200 years or something like that? I don't know. But there was that shift happening. And to me, whether I agree with it or not, power moves are being made. They have been being made, right? Russia invaded Ukraine for a reason. They want their natural resources. China's all over Africa because they're mining all of their rare earth minerals. Everybody else is doing it. I'm not saying that it's right, but it is the game that's being played, like Kazan said. And the world global map, I believe, as we currently know it, is being redefined. I do think that the United States is going to be making a play to fulfill the Monroe Doctrine that President James Monroe presented to Congress in 1825, where the United States, is the power, military power, and the leader of the Western Hemisphere, and that includes Greenland. Now, you know, Secretary of State Marco Rubio, when it comes to Greenland, has said that we're planning on purchasing it.
Well, yeah, but what if they don't? Denmark has said, I mean, all the European Union people came in together with a statement that says we're not selling Greenland.
When did that happen?
I believe it was a day or two ago they came out with a joint statement saying that.
I'd like to see that if you can find it.
Okay.
Because obviously, when you look at the NATO relationship and our alliance with all of these European countries, the United States provides protection, right, to all of these countries, while NATO provides access, strategic access for their bases and for their military operations. The reason the United States would want to take over Greenland is not because we don't already have bases there. We already have a base there. And when it comes to, you've seen a lot of people talk about like being able to get Russia's missiles, like no land base is intercepting missiles. That's all done by satellites now. It has been for a very long time. The United States wants Greenland's untapped rare earth minerals to compete with China.
But they could take it, all right? Well, Greenland will give it to you. You know what I'm saying? Greenland will. They're our ally. So, like, they will give us this rare earth without us purchasing Greenland. I think for me, it's hard for me to see that Trump's not doing this because of his own grandeur of, like, wanting to change the world map, right? This is going to go down in the history books. He's going to be the guy that now has captured Greenland for America, maybe some of South America.
Well, or bought,
capture, whatever. So, like, I think he's doing it for reasons that are his own personal reasons. I think
you don't think it's on behalf of security for the United States?
No, absolutely not. No, he's doing it.
So you don't see any strategic play with Greenland?
No, what I'm saying is Greenland will give us these. Here's the joint statement, which basically says that. Here, I'll put it in the Greenland thing in my tab here. But it essentially says that Greenland is going to cooperate and give us everything that we want without.
Let's pull it. Where is it?
It's in the
here?
Right there. Yeah, there it is. So let's read this joint statement. It says, so this is a joint statement from the foreign ministers of Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden. As Nordic countries, Arctic states, and NATO allies, we are collectively committed to preserving security, stability, and cooperation in the Arctic. We have all taken steps to increase deterrence and defense in the region, including through new capabilities, activities, presence, and increased situational awareness. We support NATO increasing its presence and vigilance in the region. We have substantially increased our investments in the Arctic security, and we are ready to do even more in close consultation with the United States and other NATO allies. So that says we're going to work very closely with you to make sure that this area stays secure and the investments go to the, our allies. It says security in the Arctic rests on the respect for the fundamental principles in the UN Charter, international law, including the inviolability of borders. The Kingdom of Denmark, including Greenland, is a founding member of NATO and has historically worked closely with the United States on Arctic security, including through the defense agreement between the U.S. and Denmark from 1951, which offers opportunities for increased security cooperation. We collectively reiterate that matters concerning Denmark and Greenland are for Denmark and Greenland to decide alone. So to me, that reads as we're going to work very closely with you on all of these strategic considerations, whether it be the natural resources or the defense against other countries that are encroaching in the Arctic region. So like the taking of Greenland to me is really just like a vanity play that Trump wants to do because he wants to say that I took over Greenland.
Yeah. Did it say anything in here about rare earth minerals? Or it's just all talking about security?
I mean, I don't see anything in here about rare earth minerals. Maybe that'll come in terms of what their conversation around that is if there's some kind of economic deal that they want to make as well to say, well, you get first access to all these rare earth minerals ahead of China and Russia, or like we're not even going to do business with China and Russia. What I'm saying is they're going to work with us on this 100%. So I don't see the need to even go after Greenland in the way that he's talking about. I agree with you on the security, right? It's hard to argue like, hey, it would be great if we had that, all those rare earth minerals, if we had, more
access to the Arctic.
but they're going to give us those things without taking over in a military or even financial sense of like, we're going to buy it from you.
So then what's the difference?
The difference is that you get to keep your friends, okay? The difference is that we become like a partner with all these countries, and we don't isolate them and make them feel like, oh, maybe Russia is the good guy. Maybe China is the good guy because they're not trying to take over our country.
But if the United States is strategically using the location to protect those countries, then...
Well, I guess what I would see, so like I'm going to try, if I were to put myself in the shoes of like Greenland or Denmark, I would say, wow, working with the United States kind of sucks because not only, we're already giving them what they want, and it's not even good enough for them. They want to basically take our house. It's like, oh, let's say we have a shared, garden in the neighborhood. It's like, oh yeah, you're welcome to, do any, take the food from here. You're welcome to collectively, we're in this together versus like, oh no, I own this garden now. It's my garden. Mm-hmm. And so I just think in the long run, this can't be a good strategy to isolate, Denmark, Finland, Iceland, Norway, Sweden. Like these are nations maybe not nearly as powerful as the United States, right? Mm-hmm. But they're important allies to have. And what you don't want to happen is have all these people think that, let's say, Russia is starting to be the good guys. Or, I mean,
Russia tried. I mean, China's tried to buy Greenland. They've tried to make investments for years. I mean, this is like another Venezuela country.
So, but then by doing
all
this,
the powers are after this location, right?
Right. So,
because of the Arctic route, right? The way right now, and also I just want to correct myself. Someone said that I was wrong about the missile interceptions, that when it comes to nukes, I want to put this up here because this is important. Wrong about the satellites. Nuke interceptors are ground-based, not space-based. And so... what
were you saying about the...
I was saying that, satellites intercept missiles now.
Okay.
But I guess when it comes to nukes, those bases are on the ground. And so anyways, I just wanted to correct myself there. I did not know the distinction. But
so I guess I'm agreeing with you in the sense of like, yeah, we should defend against encroachment, but it's like, how do you do this?
Yeah.
Like, we're gonna play a game, right? To Kaizen's point, I'm also playing a game, but I think the strategy to win the game is not how they're playing it right now. I just have a disagreement in the strategy.
Yeah, I mean, this strategy that is currently being used has definitely not been done. It's definitely breaking from the last, however many presidents back.
The strategy
of Trump's.
No,
right
it hasn't. No, the strategy has always been to go over and take military action against these countries. Trump is.
But he's talking about buying Greenland.
Okay, he's
Marco Rubio has.
But what if they don't want to sell? What if they don't want to sell?
And you have Democrats like John Fetterman.
Fuck John Fetterman.
Look, I don't like any of them, but my point is there are people that are not Trump supporters in support of buying Greenland. John Fetterman
is more or less a Trump. I mean, sorry, you can go ahead and read it, but he's.
I'm just like reading what's going on. I believe Greenland has massive strategic benefits for the United States. I do not support taking it by force. America is not a bully. I don't agree with that. Ideally, we purchase it similar to our purchases of Alaska or the Louisiana Purchase. Acquiring Greenland is a many decades old conversation.
Okay. Right. Okay. So if we can buy it, okay, like Louisiana Purchase or Seward's purchase of Alaska, that's fine. And it's like, how do those purchases come about, right? It's like if we go and say we're going to purchase this land and they say, no, we don't want to sell it to you. And then we hold a gun to their head and say, well, you're going to sell it to us. I think that's very different from France needing to sell off the Louisiana Purchase to pay for their war efforts against, the UK at the time.
Yeah.
Right? I think that's different because France was very willing to say, like, yeah, take it. We need the money right now.
Yeah.
Which I think is a different conversation.
Something that I found so interesting is that, do you know how many people live in Greenland? Because it's like a huge, in terms of in size.
I thought it was like 45
country.
people or something like that. I think there's like several thousand. I don't know, maybe more than several thousand, but not many people.
They say it's between like 40 and 54,000 people. I think 57,000.
57,000. Okay, I just
and which is just crazy because I live in like, I don't live in like a huge city in California, and I have more residents in my city than that. I just didn't realize that there weren't that many people there, and so it's not a large group of people. You're not going in and you're disrupting like there's more people in my little tiny city.
Okay.
And it was interesting because I was doing research for a story, and I saw this statistic that if we paid, like on top of whatever purchase price we had, if we paid each resident of Greenland $1 million, that would be 1/3 of the amount of money that we've had Congress approve for the Ukraine war.
Well,
which is crazy because what have we gotten out of the Ukraine war? It's just an interesting statistic there, right?
Right, and the Ukraine war, I don't want to get into all the stuff, but it's like the reason why we're in the Ukraine war, a lot of very smart people, smarter than me, argue that it's because of U.S. involvement and, meddling over there with Victoria Nuland, the diplomat that was like, basically, we got to do a coup here. We don't like this leader. We're going to install this guy. And we're also going to piss off Russia by installing. We're installing bases right next to Russia, So we're doing the same thing back to them that we don't want done to us. And Russia's red line was like, no, you're not going to come into Ukraine. This is literally right next to us. So you are not going to do that. And we said, oh, no, we're going to do it. And so so that kind of forces Russia, because Russia, they're also playing the game for their people. They don't want to look weak, or they don't want to be weak.
Yeah.
And so they're, we're going to have to do something back to you guys. So then now this creates a situation where all of that money that could have been used for other things are being diverted to this problem that we could have completely avoided.
Well, and so what's going on in Venezuela, Iran, and then Greenland ties into economically weakening Russia, because Russia has been in control of the oil market. And so they're able to do market manipulation, right? They're able to set the price of oil. And so by the United States kind of taking control of the Arctic waterway and also Venezuelan oil, now the United States is able to compete, right? And they're able to say, no, oil is going to be much cheaper. And that's Russia's #1 export. And so that would financially and economically hurt Russia. So there's all these different components to it, which is why there's so many layers to it. In this game that we're talking about, right? That like Kazan was talking about, there's all of these different layers, and it's hard to really know like how this is going to work out, right? If we all had a crystal ball and we said, oh, Venezuela is going to be better off. The United States it's not going to be a regime change like before, right? And the people are going to be more liberated. There are going to be jobs because of the oil production, and the United States is going to be more secure. People would be like, that was the best decision, right? And if the opposite happens and there's chaos and we piss off NATO because we're going to buy Greenland and we lose our allies and, things go awry, then obviously we would say, oh, this was so stupid. So it's hard to know which way is going to go, but I am looking at some of the different components and seeing why maybe these moves are being made strategically.
Yeah, I suppose you're right. We don't really know what's going to happen, but I should be allowed to voice these. I think it's like we should be allowed to be like pro-America, but questioning the motivations of the government. And that's always been my ethos, is that I'm going to assume that you're lying to me because they're telling us all this stuff. That's
well, and they've lied to us about everything.
So I'm going to assume that they're lying again. And I don't think it deviates from my like world, the way I see the world, and that, I'm going to be very skeptical about what you're telling me. Because, a lot of what you're repeating, not all of it, but like a lot of it is like State Department talking points, like Marco Rubio, like he's saying we're going to do this and this is why we have to do it. And I'm just very skeptical.
Well, all I said that Marco Rubio said, the only thing that I quoted Marco Rubio is that he said we're going to purchase Greenland.
But the reasons, I mean, all this like geopolitical stuff and how things are going to work out and why we need to do this.
I mean, in terms of the oil, I read Parts of Oil 101, which is an oil expert book. It actually wasn't talked about in the mainstream media for days until after I did my story on part of the reason that the United States might be doing this to cut off China's cheap oil.
And it could be correct that maybe they are trying to cut off China's.
I think it's a lot of things. I think there's a lot of things at play, and that's all I'm trying to say.
Sure.
I think it was a power move, right? I think it was a signal to the rest of the world for sure. I think.
But was it the right signal? See, that's what I'm arguing about. Is you're signaling, but is this ultimately going to work out?
And that's what I'm saying. We don't have the crystal ball, so it's hard to say. Like, I'm not going to pretend to know. I'm just presenting some of the theories that are out there, which of course people are going to say are mine, but they're widely discussed and talked about. And I think there's probably going to be truth to both sides in the end.
Yeah, I mean, I think, you could argue both sides exist. What I'm arguing is like, I'm trying to maintain like a very consistent, principled position where if I were to put myself in the shoes of the opposition, or if this was done to me, would I support this? Or if on a microcosm level.
Like you're saying, if you're Greenland or a NATO?
Because I'm trying to say if I'm Greenland or I'm another NATO country, how would I perceive these actions and what would I do in return?
Yeah, well, and that's going to be interesting to see the way that it's played out, right? Because we actually don't know. And there might be something in it for NATO where they agree and, who knows?
Yeah, and it's not like the U.S., it's not like, Trump is saying that everybody's going to get like an oil dividend. People are going to get cut in on the Venezuelan oil, or like you and I, let's go set up a drill over there in Venezuela right now. Let's get our, little pocket of oil. That's not really happening. It's being handed out to these individuals. And I talked about this in my, other coverage of like, there are certain actors that are like huge donors of the Trump administration that's getting like first access. That's going to, they're going to make a shitload of money from it. And I'm always, of standing with the American people of saying, how is this going to benefit your life? And I just don't see the benefit.
If Russia took over the oil or China took over the oil and they stopped transacting in dollars for the oil, that would be very, very bad for the United States people and the economy. You do know that. Like,
right,
that
the collapse of the petrodollar, you're saying, would be very bad. I mean,
immediately, like, that would be horrible. And so a lot of people are making the argument that this, in a lot of ways is benefiting the American people directly, because if it were to switch, it would be catastrophic for the economy.
That could be right, but then how do you ward off against it? Is it this strategy, or is it a different strategy to maintain the prominence of the dollar? Are there other ways that we can go about this? Is there something reform that could be done domestically with the Federal Reserve to ensure that?
Like what? Give me an example, because I don't know.
Well, so for example, a lot of people, the dollar is worth much less nowadays than it was worth, 10 years ago, 50 years ago, right? We're causing inflation in the dollar based on the policies of the Federal Reserve. They're doing so on behalf of these private banks that are controlling the money supply system. And overall, it's like, okay, our dollars are going down regardless. And then by using the petrodollar scheme, we've been able to maintain sort of the prominence of the dollar through this inflation where we're printing money.
But there's not enough oil to back it up.
Well, so the issue is over time, like this will end. The petrodollar will collapse at some point. So it's like, do you want to continue to like use the same technique, or do you develop other means to like ensure your prosperity?
Well, so what? That's
I don't have the answer,
my
but
question
I'm just
is,
saying
what are those other means? Because President Trump, if you watch that Ian Carroll, Tucker Carlson, that was really interesting. And if you haven't watched it, go watch it. Last episode, I had not watched it, and then I went and watched it, and I was like, wow. I said this to James before we started filming, that I felt like Wayne's World, but I guess he hasn't seen the movie where they go, we're not worthy. Like, Ian Carroll is just so researched and so well-spoken And the way that he explains things, I'm like, wow, I have so much to learn and so far to go. And I know people in the chat agree with that. But just the relationship between President Trump and the Saudis was highlighted by Ian Carroll in that whole theory about what happened at the Las Vegas shooting against MBS.
Well,
potentially,
allegedly, yeah.
And, you know, how they like rolled out the gold carpet for President Trump and that changed relationship between the United States and Saudi Arabia. And Saudi Arabia is the second largest holder of oil, second to Venezuela, and then the United States. And so when you look at the moves in terms of oil and the petrodollar, right? Yeah. Those alliances are strengthening the petrodollar.
Right. So then why, you know,
so without those.
So the question is, why wouldn't we have done the same thing with Maduro? Right? Because Maduro, right before he was captured, he did basically
I thought Maduro was the one that stopped the oil
he said no
operations with the United States.
He's not immune to the powers of the U.S. and our ability to force changes. And in an interview like a couple days before, he said that, I'm down to sell oil to the United States. It's cool. Well, I'll let you buy our oil.
Well, he probably knew he was going to get captured at that point.
Well, maybe, but so then why did we need to capture him? If he was willing to play ball. And then this once again goes back to, I think this is like Trump's selfish motivations of wanting to exert power in a way that he feels like it feels good to him to exert, but not necessarily good for America in the long run. Right? Because we could have done a deal with Maduro. We could have gotten the oil and everything that we wanted. We could have stopped them from selling oil to China and Russia, and he would have done it. But why?
Well, Maduro wouldn't have stopped.
Yeah, he would. No, he literally said yes. He would have given in to our demands.
Because China and Venezuela, China lent Venezuela money. So Venezuela was in debt to China, and they were repaying China in oil.
Right, but we could have come in and said
400,000 barrels a day.
And we could have negotiated something. I'm sure there's ways for us to make that debt go away or
we
work
did.
Through.
We captured Maduro.
So you see what I'm saying is that we don't need. I think Trump is doing this because in another leak from the White House, you could choose to believe these leaks or not. Yeah. Right? He's saying that, Maduro was making fun of Trump all the time and he didn't like this.
Oh, yeah. And the dancing that's going around. I mean, look,
it's possible.
If we're capturing world leaders because they're dancing and we don't like it,
that's what the reporting is suggesting.
But you could argue that Trump is the most made fun of and ridiculed president of all time, at least in our generation.
Well, he's funny. He's a funny guy.
He's hilarious, but he has he's so polarizing, right?
He is polarizing.
And so the idea that all of a sudden now, when, all of mainstream media and all of they've been going after him saying, that all of a sudden, I don't know. My whole point is like this White House leak seems like a little suspicious.
Okay, you're saying that the
all of a sudden this is the thing. Like, this is what got him. I think this is about midterms. I think it's very simple. I think that, the Epstein files have a lot to do with it. He was losing his base.
What happened to the Epstein? We're not talking about that anymore.
Obviously the Venezuelan capture happened on the day that the last amount of the Epstein files were supposed to be released. And I think this has to do with securing the United States, securing the dollar, right? And making a power play and giving his voter base a reason to make sure that the Republicans win the midterms. I think that's what the Somalian fraud has to do with.
Sure.
I think that's what all of this has to do with, is to say the Democrats are bad. They're funneling away your money. And, we have a president that is going to make sure that we, the United States, are powerful. We are not going to let us, crumble and be taken over by Russia and China. And Trump's the one to do it. I think that's what all of this has to do with, is the midterms. It's very timely.
But it's so short-sighted. To me, that's this year of a vanity project that they were like, we want to keep power or whatever, so we're going to do things that hurt the United States in the long run, right? Because
that's assuming that it's going to go one way, right?
Okay, but so this is the thesis that I'm throwing out there, is that if you want to be the alpha dog, let's say in a smaller context, let's say like you want to control the playground, you know, like as kids, like the way you would want to do it is exerting your ability, your soft power. You want to build alliances with other people in the playground. You don't want to just be the guy that beats everybody up because everybody hates you at the end of the day. You don't want to exert power through that lens. You want people to fear you, but also respect you. Now they don't respect us, they just fear us.
But let me ask you a question. Don't you think the United States has been that bully you described for decades and decades? And they've just been pushing to the media that we're something different. And now there's just a lot less bullshit about it.
So you're saying that, because we used to do these regime change operations in the name of democracy.
Yes.
Right? And you're saying now we do it.
Now Trump is just saying, yeah, we just want your oil.
Well, so you're saying that he's more honest.
I'm saying that, yeah, it seems as though, you know, this whole new narrative that, you know, the United States has lost its friends. Everybody's been saying for decades, Julian Assange, obviously, you know, ringing the bell on this, that the United States has been doing this stuff, starting wars to transfer money, right? And launder money from the taxpayers to the elites. This has been going on for 15, 20 years, maybe longer. And, you know, people weren't aware of it. So I have to wonder if things are really any different or if it's just being presented to us in just a less bullshit way. Maybe.
Okay, so you would prefer this versus like sort of, hey, we're liberating the Venezuelan people.
I mean, I prefer honesty.
Yeah. Okay. So then because I was reading something the other day from this guy named Arnold Bertrand, and he's like a French economist or entrepreneur. I don't exactly know his real job title, but he wrote something that I thought was like about sort of addressing the point that you're making is like, is this actually better? Like, because you're saying Trump is more honest now, right? He's more honest than before, because before we had this veneer of like, we're going in because we're liberating people. Now it's just like, we want to take your oil.
Right. Tucker Carlson did an interview recently, and he said, yeah, this is the first time in history that a U.S. president has just not created some bullshit narrative and just said, yep, we're going in, we're taking your oil.
So I suppose you could say that's more honest, but it's also now we don't have the veneer of like any kind, because before it was like hypocritical.
But my point is, was the veneer there in 2025?
The veneer, well, no, I thought we were talking about before.
Well, I'm saying in the last 5 years, no one really believed. Everybody kind of knew. Everybody knew what the United States was about.
Right?
Okay, so 15 years then.
20 years. It's been
Don't
20.
age. I'm just saying.
No, okay, so the point that I'm trying to make is that you could say, a lot of people say nowadays that the Iraq war was done because of oil, right? We said it was to liberate the Iraqi people.
Back in the day.
Right, back in the day. And there's a hypocrisy. Right? Of like, you're not telling us the truth. And now we're just going to tell you the truth and not feel bad about it. We're just going to be honest. And the guy, what he was saying is, yeah, you could say that that's honesty in one respect, but then on the other, it's like you have no moral guidelines anymore. You're just basically saying that we're going to conduct actions because we can. It's like for example, the if you think about it, okay, you, let's say, you're married to your spouse and you are like, cheating is bad, right? And you're cheating on your spouse, but you feel bad about it. Now what we're doing is saying, I'm cheating on my spouse. I don't give a fuck because this is what I do. That's human behavior. And I would think that you still lose some of the, at least something to strive for. At least before
I feel like in your situation, right, that you just gave this analogy, it would be more like the spouse was always cheating on the person.
But they said, no, I want to be better.
But they hid it. And they said, no, we're not cheating on. I'm not cheating on you. And then at one point they just said, I'm cheating. That's the angle I'm taking. That's what I'm trying to say is that the United States people, you and I have known, and other countries have known what the United States has been doing. It's just that they've been pretending it's something else.
But at least that's something to strive for, right?
What? Pretending?
Not pretending, but it's just like,
I'm saying the moral compass that you're talking about, I don't believe existed.
At all, ever.
I think probably with JFK, but I don't think since then.
Okay.
So it's been a long fucking time, 60-something years, right? Basically since the neocons have been running things. So...
But it's still something that I would like to strive for, right? I always want to be a better human being, right? I don't want to just be honest and say, well, I'm a cheater, so that's just the way I am. I indulge in all of these things. No, it's like, oh, I understand that these things are bad, and I want to improve myself. I want to reduce the things that I'm doing that's bad because I'm trying to shoot for something that's better. I could still be hypocritical because I'm still sinning, but I think having that moral compass is still better than just saying, oh, well, I'm just... I don't care. I don't have any moral grounds. I just will do whatever it is that I want to do.
Yeah, I think it's just a little bit less gaslighting.
Yeah, no, I agree with you. I mean, I've felt gaslit for years, right? It is a gaslit. But I guess, am I saying that gaslighting is better than just...
That's kind of...
Is that kind of what I'm saying?
And everybody's different.
And I'm just thinking through this out loud, right? Is gaslighting better than just having no morals at all and just saying that I don't give a fuck, I'm going in?
Well... So, in this situation...
Right, we're doing it for the oil, right? We're just being blatantly honest that we want to take their oil. Is that better than being gaslit to say that, oh, no, we're going to liberate the Venezuelan people from a bad dictator, but also, like, we kind of want their oil, too? Like, which one's... I mean, they're both not ideal, but is one still better than the other?
It's going to depend on how this plays out. I don't think one's better than the other because the actions are the same. That's all I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
The actions are the same.
The actions are the same.
No matter what you're telling your spouse, you're still cheating.
Yeah, but is it different? Would it be different for you if they were remorseful about it and wanted to get better versus, yeah, I'm going to cheat because I can. You're not going to be able to leave me, like, because I pay for all your shit. So deal with it.
Look if there was if there was cheating in my relationship, it'd be a Bobbitt situation.
What do you mean?
Who's the woman? Something Bobbitt? She chopped off her husband's dick.
But do you understand what I'm saying? It's like if you were in that position, right? I think, I don't know. I think you would probably want somebody who at least has some morality left in them versus just being, quote unquote, like refreshingly honest or whatnot. I don't know. It's the
outcome. The outcome's the same.
The action's the same.
Yeah. The action's the same.
But the intent is different.
The intent is different?
I don't know.
You're assuming that when they tell us they're doing this for, No,
I'm the guy that says I don't trust anything that they're saying.
Okay, so then there's no difference.
Well, there's a difference in that I think I can... okay, so yes, the actions are the same. But I guess I'm just trying to work out in my head if one's better than the other.
Well,
or is it the same?
Let me know when you figured it out.
Okay. Anyways, we got about a few minutes. We went on that a lot longer than I thought, to be honest with you. It was one of our more
Dani
heated...
coming in hot. Tuck in, boys. Dani must have dated me in her 20s.
I don't know what that means.
I don't either. But I've been dating the same person for like 20 years, so
yeah,
I doubt it.
I don't know. We did not get to Charlie Kirk. Do you want to get to Charlie Kirk really quick?
I want to play my Monroe Doctrine video.
I know you're proud of that one. Let's do it.
Well, you were like, are you going to talk about it? But really, I think I did a story on it, and I just think it's easier to explain because it has all the maps and like the clips and everything, and it's quick.
Okay.
So let's just play this. Because if not, it's definitely time that you do. It's a map based off of the Monroe Doctrine that was introduced by President James Monroe in 1823. And basically, it says that the Western Hemisphere belongs to the Americas and that no foreign power should have any control over it. Back in the day, it was referring to Europe, but today it applies to China and Russia. That's why when Marco Rubio was being interviewed about why the United States captured Maduro and Venezuela, he said it had nothing to do with oil at all, but actually had to do with...
China need their oil. Why does Russia need their oil? Why does Iran need their oil? They're not even in this continent. This is the Western Hemisphere. This is where we live. And we're not going to allow the Western Hemisphere to be a base of operation for adversaries, competitors, and rivals of the United States.
The Monroe Doctrine that President Trump has been referencing refers to the United States controlling the Western Hemisphere, which includes Greenland, Cuba, Colombia, Venezuela, which is why you've heard about us getting involved in those countries lately. It's about energy dominance. Oil, gas, lithium, rare earths in the Americas must not fall under hostile control. Financial power, making sure that the dollar system remains dominant in this hemisphere. Military exclusion. You just heard Marco Rubio saying this. No rival power gets permanent bases near U.S. territory, and information and tech control. Telecom, satellites, AI, and surveillance matter as much as tanks. If a new world order is happening right now, many people believe it'll end up looking something like this. After all, yesterday, President Trump did say,
peace on earth. Peace on earth. We gotta have peace. It's our hemisphere. The Monroe Doctrine was very important when it was done, and other presidents, a lot of them, they lost sight of it. I didn't lose sight, but it really is, it's peace on earth.
I think it's safe to say that this is something we should all be paying attention to, and not just some crazy conspiracy theory.
Well, it's definitely not a conspiracy theory.
Well, I think
it's definitely not a conspiracy theory.
Well, a lot of people, this has been going around in the tin head world.
What, the Monroe Doctrine?
And the New World Order.
The New World, what is that? I mean, I feel like that means a lot of different things.
It can, but just that, you know, that we, the United States, would be working towards controlling the Western Hemisphere.
But we already control the Western Hemisphere.
Where we're taking over other countries, like Greenland, like what we're doing right now.
Yeah.
How we went and captured Maduro, how we're saying we're going to purchase Greenland. And so that's why I ended it with that. You know, and again, this is highlighting Trump's honesty, right? Like he's not saying, you know, we're going into Greenland to see if the people, you know, want to be liberated. Like he's saying, like that we're moving forward with the Monroe Doctrine. A lot of presidents lost sight of that, and I don't think a lot of people were aware of what this looks like. I actually tried to bring it up.
But does the Monroe Doctrine? Sorry, go ahead.
I was saying I tried to bring this map up to you last episode, but you were looking at your own map. Remember?
I was looking at the Israel map.
Yeah,
the Israeli South America map.
I was trying to ring the alarm back then, and anyways, that I feel like a lot of people aren't familiar with what the Monroe Doctrine is and like what it means.
Really, I haven't heard about the Monroe Doctrine since like high school. I'm sure Trump probably just heard about it recently as well. And he's like, "Oh, this is a good thing here. I like this. Let's do it."
I don't remember hearing about it in high school. So
you didn't hear? Oh, I guess maybe you weren't. Oh, you weren't. What is it? Studious in high school from
I
from what you've told me.
I mean, first one, and, you know, my parents didn't go to college. I didn't have anybody doing anything for me. I got myself into college, and I definitely tried hard, but I was a social butterfly.
Right.
And, you know, into leadership. I was a, you know, athlete. So I had, you know, I didn't have a 4.0.
Yeah. So, I mean, I understand all this stuff. I think I'm just trying to be principled in the sense that like I wouldn't want like a mini Monroe Doctrine with like, you know,
it's not a Monroe Doctrine anymore.
What do you mean? It's
a Don Roe Doctrine.
Yeah, okay. Do you like that? You gonna coin that, or did somebody else already coin it?
I don't know, but that's what it is.
I just think that it's not the best way to go about it, because I think we can have the Monroe Doctrine, quote unquote, without putting our name on every single one of these countries.
Yeah, I don't like with Venezuela. I don't think the United States is going to take over Venezuela. I think we got what we wanted, and we're out. The same regime is still in. We'll see what happens there, right? Time will tell. I do think it's interesting that like two people that like hate Trump, John Bolton and, you know, the head of MI6, are saying like this is not what a regime change looks like. This also
they want Trump. You're saying they think it should have gone further. Right?
Bolton
for sure.
Bolton did. And a lot of people say that this actually has to do with Trump taking out the London banking system. And I'm doing a lot of heavy research into that right now. And I'm not well-versed enough to talk about it, but there's like a lot of really interesting, very well-versed people that have been studying, you know, the central banking for decades and decades. Something that's interesting is that in 2024, Venezuela invited in the Rothschilds to look at their books, right? Venezuela was one of the only countries that didn't participate in like transacting with the dollar and, you know, like your IMF central banking. They had their own. And in 2024, they brought in the Rothschilds to look at their books. And of course, you know, those are some of the biggest bankers in the world. And now what do you see happening? Anyways, there's a lot of stuff with that. But when you look at countries that didn't want to transact in the dollar, you're looking at Iran, Iraq, Sudan, Libya, Venezuela, Cuba, Colombia. And so there is a central banking component to this and dealing with the IMF, and more to come on all of that.
All right, well, we look forward to that expose.
Yes.
When that comes. Is it going to be like a long form thing or a short form thing?
Well, I always like to do short form, and then I do my lives and like explain it in depth. But, you know, I try to, like, with the Monroe Doctrine, like that was like 8 hours, or like learning about how the United States play in Venezuela is not just about the United States getting oil. It's about like cutting off Russia and China's power. I mean, it's hours of researching and reading and trying to condense it so people can quickly learn, because I know most people don't have the time to like do that research. So it'll probably be quick. A quick hitter.
A quick hitter.
Maybe multiple parts. I don't know. We'll see.
We'll see. Well, I mean, I guess if people are happy about it, I'm not going to tell people to be unhappy. You know, I care most about people's well-being and their personal mental health, their psyche. So if this makes them happy, I'm not going to be out there telling them you shouldn't be happy about it.
About what? Invading Venezuela?
Just, yeah. And if it gives you some sort of like, you know, if it gives you harmony and peace inside, I'm not going to try
Which is like so hilarious that like capturing somebody else's president gives people harmony and peace. But I think it does, because people feel like, oh, we're not a dying power. We're still a big dog, right? And people, it's one way or the other, right? But this is the gas prices in the United States as of yesterday. And so as you can see, gas prices are dipping. And that obviously,
this has nothing to do with the Venezuela thing, because we haven't extracted any oil from there as of yet. This is just unrelated to it.
Yes, but still,
this is a midterm play. You can change. You can sort of I guess negotiate with the OPEC nations in certain time periods to increase production, decrease production, manipulate gas prices for election purposes.
Yes,
and they do that.
With the economy, obviously, less stress in gas is important, but this was announced this morning. President Trump just cut the U.S. trade deficit in half, lowest in nearly 2 decades. This is just, you know, things.
How did he? So, like, are we building more here? How did he cut are we buying less?
Well, obviously, like all of the different plants that have been starting and, you know, bringing manufacturing plants back, and then also the tariffs. So we've been importing less.
Well, that I'm for. I am for American production, so that's good. Is there a clip here you want to play?
Yeah, let's play this. This is from this morning.
Go up. This is unreal. The movement in this number. Minus 29.4 billion. We cut it basically in half. We cut it in half. Just consider this. In March, it was 136 billion. Right now, it's a whisker under 30 billion. We haven't been that small in a long time. I don't have enough records here to go back that far, but you're going back a ways. And here's the news on why it moved lower.
I would like to. That was a critical. It's like, why did it move lower? That's the answer. That's the question that I'm asking. How did it go lower?
But also, and I don't know if this is an Andrew Colvett. Follow
Colvett.
Oh no, it's not. But I thought he had reposted one of these clips from this specific segment, and I was like, yikes! I only follow him because I think he's like possibly in. Yeah, exactly. But it was like a really good clip. But on top of that. American economic productivity surges to 4.9%, the highest in nearly 6 years, while labor costs went down. So I'm going to play this clip really quick, too. Oops.
No, I think you have to...
X out of it now?
Yeah, because I think you press potentially the wrong button. Here we go.
Salve of the U.S. economy, what Greenspan called a special sauce. Well, this is the third quarter preliminary. There will be changes. 4.9%, extremely close to estimates, and a really solid number. In the rearview mirror, 3.3 becomes 4.1 for the last quarter's final. So 4.9, wow, you have to go a long way back to find a higher number. We have to go all the way back to the third quarter of 2020. Productivity's great. And if we look at unit labor costs come in, well, 1.9, down 1.9. That's a minus sign. They are lower. Unit labor costs are lower. That's always good news. And in the rearview mirror, the 1% to the upside becomes minus 2.9 to the downside as costs drop. And finally, on the trade balance, which we know is going to be a deficit, we're expecting a number around 50, shall we?
Well, the reason this is important is because of those two new statistics that came out this morning. Jerome Powell, obviously the head of the Fed, said that when he sees things cooling down, he'll drop interest rates. Obviously, people have been waiting for interest rates to drop in a long time, and these are like two huge signals that he will drop interest rates in 2026 multiple times. And obviously, that is great for the economy, right? When borrowing money is cheaper, people are able to afford cars and houses and refinance their current loans. And so there's just a lot of different things going on with the economy right now, which is it's interesting. And by the way, speaking of the economy, since Venezuela, since Maduro was captured, Venezuela has its own stock market, like the New York Stock Exchange, and it has gone up 100%. So if you put the graph on here.
Oh, sorry.
This is the Venezuelan stock market. It was up 74%, and then yesterday it hit 100% since the capture of Maduro. And obviously
and that's the only thing that matters.
Is money. Well, it's just signaling that places are planning on investing. In Venezuela,
because we've lifted the sanctions. We were the ones sanctioning Venezuela, saying you cannot do this, or if you do it, you're no longer our ally. Of course, U.S. is very powerful, so they're not going to violate our sanction policy. So, yes, of course, we lift sanctions on Venezuela, stock price goes up. That makes sense. But we depressed their economy to begin with.
Okay, I need to do more research on that. But it's looking good.
I don't know. I don't know about the job thing. The job thing didn't sound. It sounded good for businesses. But as a person who is pro-labor, I'm like, well, labor costs going down. That's not good. That sounds like more immigrants coming in, depressing wages.
I don't think more immigrants are coming in right now.
Hey, OnlyFans girls are coming in now. Did you read about it?
I did see that.
Yeah. Visas to OnlyFans performers, depressing the wages of people who put their bodies on the line for us every day.
Yes. Also, President Trump withdrew from the United States from all these international organizations. Did you read this?
Yeah, I did. So this is what I don't agree with necessarily, because it's like, why?
Well, we're spending billions and billions of dollars supporting other countries like Green Acts and things like that.
Well, you can talk about which ones you agree with and which ones you don't agree with, but just say I'm unilaterally withdrawing from all these. I don't even know which organizations are they.
It's a super long list. It's all of these.
Yeah. So in general, I think a lot of these are bullshit, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't make,
I'm just saying things seem to be tightening up with,
a lot of this is like Davos, globalist bullshit that I don't want to be a part of.
Being involved in this.
Yes.
So you're happy with cutting the
But I think it's more like, explain to us. I would like, for me, because I don't trust anybody, right? I would like to say, well, we're withdrawing from this because of X reason.
Yeah.
Versus yes, all of them we're out of, because that seems like, a hammer to blow up something, baby out with the bathwater type of situation. It doesn't seem thought out and
Well,
smart.
right. I mean, because President Trump announced this the same day that he said he wanted the defense budget to go from $1 trillion to $1.5 trillion this year. So I agree with the comment that said, but they won't cut the budget any, Dani. I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm just kind of telling you the news that happened yesterday in terms of the midterms and what people are going to rally behind. And then there's this one, if you can click back. I'm sure you heard of this, that President Trump announced yesterday that he wants to bar and ban large institutional investors like BlackRock, Vanguard, State Street, and Blackstone from buying up our single-family homes and renting them back to us.
Well, I will celebrate this when he does it, because it seems like right now he's saying, I would like to, because what I read looking into this, he said, I want Congress to take action to stop private equity firms and large investors from buying homes.
Yeah.
Which is a PR release saying, I want this to happen. Everybody wants this to happen. Nobody disagrees with this move. We know we're getting ransacked by these, Black Rocks and Blackstones and Black whatever else, all these companies.
Yeah.
So I agree with this, but I'm just thinking, is he putting this out because he's getting
midterms and
bad press because of taking over Venezuela? He's like, oh, let's throw this in there to get people talking about it. But if he actually does it, I'll wear a MAGA hat. No.
I would love to see that.
Because this would be actually huge. Because this would be something, if implemented, would actually be a big deal.
Huge. It would be an absolutely huge deal. And, I am trying to find something here. But so obviously, if you were to go through Congress and make this a law,
you have to.
It would take no, not necessarily. I wanted to bring this point up.
Oh, is there a way to do this with executive order, you're saying?
Kind of.
Okay, tell us.
It would make it much more difficult.
Then why doesn't he just do it then?
So that's what I'm curious to see how this goes, because Congress, realistically, this would take several years.
No, not necessarily. Not if we get him on board. Not if we get Israel behind it.
I mean, there
Pop
you
goes
go.
through in a couple weeks. No, I'm kidding.
But and that could be in the works, but the fastest and most effective way would be an executive order directing federal regulators like the Treasury, HUD, FHFA to bar or heavily penalize institutional buyers like private equity and hedge funds from purchasing single-family homes, especially existing housing stock. This could be enforced immediately by restricting access to federally backed mortgages, which is like Fannie Mae and Freddie Mac, tax advantages and financing, while imposing higher capital requirements or surtaxes on bulk home purchases. And so it was interesting because this was announced yesterday, and obviously nothing happened, right? We just talked, it would have to be an executive order. But Blackstone stock, you can see here, this is kind of crazy. Blackstone stock dropped literally 15 minutes. You can watch it plummet off when Trump announced it. They lost $18 billion in one day.
What percentage is that? What's their...
It was 7%. It wasn't a lot.
Yeah, 164 down to 151. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, so I guess...
It was a shot, right?
He didn't give them a heads up. He didn't give the market a heads up.
No, and what's even crazier...
but ultimately, this is why Trump can't follow through on a lot of stuff, because the people will come calling. Wall Street's could be like, yo, this is not cool.
Well, I've been tracking these big whales, anonymous whales on Polymarket and Kalshi that have been doing these predictive modeling, predictive bets and winning 100% of the time. And
are you sponsored by Kalshi yet?
I should be. I haven't done actually anything on Kalshi. I mostly use Polymarket. But I found it interesting that he announced this yesterday because these big institutions loaded up on Bitcoin yesterday. And so I don't think that it's that he's going to be getting a call. He probably made a call hey, I'm going to make some, crypto moves that are going to be popping off here and buy Bitcoin to cover your losses. Because yesterday BlackRock bought $250 million in Bitcoin.
Oh, really? Did Bitcoin go up?
No, not yet. But that's what happens, right? It usually dips and then the big institutions know to buy. And then President Trump announces that we seized Venezuela's Bitcoin and we're now the largest holders of Bitcoin in the world. And Bitcoin goes up. And
I guess buy Bitcoin, not financial advice. Just kidding.
Bitcoin is already so high.
They say it could go to 1 million.
Even if it went to 1 million, you wouldn't make like...
That's 10x.
You would have to have millions like BlackRock or these institutions, right? It's only 10x.
Well, you're trying to do like a parabolic gain of like 1,000 times your money kind of thing.
Well, that's what it was for Bitcoin in the beginning,
it was,
right?
Yes.
For people that got in. And like, so there are other cryptos, which is really just like technology.
Yeah.
It's kind of confusing because it's all called crypto, but some of it is just technology that like XRP, for example, is supposed to like transact money quicker than the current wiring and Swift banking process. But anyways, different coins have different purposes and are different technologies in like layman's terms. And those are like still relatively low. And so like if something like one of those low coins were adopted, then you would have like a much higher ROI. Unless you're, of course, like BlackRock with hundreds of millions and billions of dollars and you can invest, then of course it would be worth it. But for like, the average person, it's like if you invest $20K and it hits 150, you're gonna make like $3,000.
Right. So that's what I'm saying. So how are people gonna get better off? That's the question that I always...
I mean, right now I would be studying the predictive betting apps.
No, I don't trust the predictive betting apps because I feel like they find ways to negate payments of like...
I'm not saying betting on their apps. I'm saying using them for indicators because insiders are trading on their... That's what I do.
Okay, gotcha.
I use it as indicators. I look at someone who is a big whale that's betting hundreds of millions of dollars, has 100% success rate on these crazy things like Maduro being captured, or betting like yesterday $277 million that all stocks are going to be up. And then I go, okay, this is obviously an insider or an institution. They know something because...
Or someone who's an idiot. No.
Very, very rich. I mean, they have 100% success rate.
Oh, no, you're saying they have 100% success. So are you following specific users on these apps?
Yeah, I am.
Wow.
So I'm not saying betting. I'm saying you should follow the indicators. Congress is moving away from stocks because they've been getting slammed for insider trading because it's like on websites like Capital Trades and stuff. Where
but here you get to see immediately though. You don't see it's them. You don't see it's them, but you see big whales coming in. 50K betting on some position.
50K is nothing. These whales are betting.
What are they betting?
Tens or hundreds of millions of dollars.
Hundreds of millions of dollars.
So they're either institutions or they're like,
on like Poly Market, some of these.
Yeah.
Holy moly.
And Kolshi. And so it's like when you look at these people, that are betting on Maduro being captured at a specific time and gas prices and stock.
So I guess it's what do
things.
you do with that information, right? Once you know, okay, you see somebody.
No matter what, you're gonna have to make a guess or a bet. It depends if you want to do it. I'm just saying this is something I do because I'm studying the news and looking at these trends all the time. So.
Right, but it's like Maduro's getting captured. What do you do? Like, put some money in the Venezuelan market because you think it's gonna go up, kind of thing.
I would say people probably would put money on certain oil companies.
I see. Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So,
you could have a whole newsletter. You could probably charge people for this.
I mean, I think there's a lot of people that are doing that and are way more, well versed in this type of stuff than me.
Yeah. Anyways, well, what an episode, huh? Quite the roller coaster. Hopefully it spurred on some good discussion.
Yes.
Our discussion hopefully inspires other people to have discussion because ultimately that's what we want is people talking and people not hating each other. I want to set a good example. Like we should be able to talk to each other. I disagreed a lot with Dani in this episode, but I still love her.
Thank you. I don't feel like we disagreed too much.
I mean, I think we disagreed on like the strategy of Venezuela. And,
I can just see that there might be strategy behind it to put the United States in a more powerful economic position. And I'm just like, I don't know which way it's going to go.
And
if it ends up being positive for the United States and the Venezuelans, like, I don't know how you could be against it.
Well,
It's
I would
too
have
hard
to,
to have
it
a
depends on how
crystal
you
ball.
measure for the United States, right? For the people of the United States, or for allies of the Trump administration, or major multinational corporations that are.
If it stimulates the
operating
economy,
near the
gas
United
prices go down, it lowers interest rates.
Or happiness. Or you can measure, hey, how are people feeling about the United States? Is that a measurement we should care about? I don't know if there is a tracker for that. It's like, hey, how do you feel about the country? That should be an important one, too, to track of like, hey, do you feel good about the next 5 years? Or I feel very not optimistic about the next 5 years. That's also an important, the happiness indicator, so to speak.
Yeah, I think from like a woohoo point of view, that your happiness should not depend on any outside factors. Happiness comes from within.
Right.
So it shouldn't have to do with your friends, your family, your country, and the decisions that are being made. And that's, I think, like a Buddhist principle that if you are mentally happy on your own, you could sit in a jail cell and you'd still be happy. So
that sounds like propaganda. I don't know. Sounds like Chinese CCP propaganda talking about how you should be happy in jail.
No, I think it's about having, you know,
a lot of Buddhists in China. They're like, no, it's actually good that you're in jail because
I think it's more talking about, it's a meditation standpoint about being able to control your own mind and not be emotionally tied to outside factors.
Absolutely. You have your own agency.
Yes.
Right? You control your happiness. Of course, there's external factors where, like, if you can't put food on the table, you're not going to be very happy. But if you have your Maslow's need of hierarchy.
Maslow's.
Is it Maslow's or Maslow's?
I think it's Maslow's.
Maslow's. Somebody check on that.
I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong.
But, you know, according to the hierarchy of needs, like if you have your basic needs met, then happiness is sort of up to you at that point.
Yeah, and so I think that, you know, if like gas prices are lower and interest rates are lower and the economy is better, that's going to make a lot of people happier that are really struggling right now, that are in debt. Credit card debt is high.
But credit card debt is like, we don't want to get into more debt, right? Even if interest rate goes down, you're still taking on more debt. We want people to get out of debt.
Well, it would allow people to cut their costs in all of their other ways to pay off their debt.
Well, hopefully people are paying off their debt. That's the Dave Ramsey thing, right? Dave Ramsey is always about, hey, don't take on debt that you can't afford to pay back.
A funny story.
You know Dave? You're like best friends with Dave?
No. My grandfather.
He is Dave. No.
Not the one that I was talking about last week that, you know, taught me about holding my taxes from the government. It's Maslow's.
Maslow's. So you were right.
Got to get the wins when you can.
Hey, I think we're pretty split. You know, some people, enjoy you. Some people enjoy me. This is the show for everybody.
I mean, most of the comments are saying that I'm loud.
No, not this week. We got the mic volume correct.
The chat is always nice to me, and then like afterwards they're like, anyways, it's fine. But
all right.
But my grandfather, I graduated, or I was like my senior year of college, and I was like, broke, and so any money is like, amazing, right?
Yeah.
And it was Christmas, and like my cousins were getting like gift cards, and I'm like, oh, like I need some cash, keep me afloat. I was working in college, and I get this like disc tape, Dave Ramsey's Financial Peace. And I was like, what the fuck is this? I was like so pissed, And I'm like, thanks, Grandpa. Like that fake smile you give where you're like...
Yeah, but then you appreciated him later or no?
So then I was like driving. I graduated and I got a corporate job in insurance. And I was driving to work with my Starbucks coffee and like my egg burrito or whatever when I used to eat eggs and, and it was like, if you took the people that spend their money at Starbucks every morning instead of making their coffee at home, if you took that money and you put it in a compound interest account, you'd have $1 million by the time you were retirement age, right? Just off of your coffee purchases.
Oh, no, I agree with you on that.
And I started learning about debt, and like I didn't have a credit card until I did everything in cash.
Wow.
Because I didn't trust myself because of those tapes.
Wow.
So, anyways, yes, it actually ended up being one of those things that like sometimes our grandparents, my parents, by the way, were not following any of these rules. They were like the opposite of Dave Ramsey's financial piece. So it had to come from like the elders. But of course, now I'm like, wow, that was like really valuable information. Because in America, it's like, open up that credit card, buy the big screen TV, like wear the cool clothes, you know?
Yeah.
So.
All right. Well, I'm not out there endorsing Dave Ramsey or anything like that, but always interesting to listen to various financial advices and take it for what you will. Thank you so much for being with us on the show. Thank you specifically, or a special shout out to the Patreon members. Thank you as well to Caitlin. For that awesome super chat earlier on the show. I don't know if you're still around, but I appreciate you very, very much.
Yes. Thank you so much. And I will endorse James Ramsey.
Dave
Ramsey. Because
someone here said Dave Ramsey has declared bankruptcy 4 times. Maybe he was just using it for his advantage. I don't know.
Oh, I don't know. But I'm just talking about like some of the information.
Yeah.
It was helpful for me. And just like I'm going to endorse Spencer Pratt for mayor of LA.
All right.
I am all for it. So thank you guys so much for being here. Happy Thursday.
Final words, final chats that you want to shout out before we sign off for the day?
Final words?
I always give you the final word because I'm nice.
It's hilarious, these things that are said. I would just say have a great weekend. We'll see what comes. And, I think at the end of the day, like, there's a lot of noise in the world always, to go back to that, like, meditation. And I think people, at the end of the day, need to make sure that they have things that ground them and keep them connected to nature and their family and love and friends and things that really matter. Because a lot of the stuff we talk about is noise.
Yeah.
And it's a bunch of bullshit that the powers that be of the world purposely put out there so that you and I talking heads
have a job,
perpetuate it. And you know what I mean? And it's so much better to like take your shoes off in the morning, let the sun hit your face, ground in the grass or the dirt, and like hug a tree and, be one with nature.
Love that. Love that. Subscribe to the show, guys.
Yes.
For more meditation and grounding.
Yes, exactly. There's, so many different components. Anyways, you guys, have a great weekend and let us know what you think about all of this down below. And now I have to go to finish.